Good morning, sunshines. We are in chapter 5, and we are learning more about Ella's dad, who she's quite scared of. So are the servants. I am predicting that he's maybe not the best person in the world, and he also doesn't know about her curse. So we're going to see what happens. Chapter 5. The next night, I had to dine with Father. I had trouble sitting down at the table because Bertha had made me wear a fashionable gown. And my petticoat was voluminous, which means that her skirt on her gown or dress was just huge, that when she sat, all of the stuffing went up. On Father's plate and mine were asparagus covered with mustard sauce. In front of his plate was a many-faced crystal goblet. So a goblet's kind of like a wine glass. When I finally managed to settle in my chair, Father signaled to Nathan to pour wine in the goblet. "See how it catches the light, Eleanor?" He raised it. "It makes the wine sparkle, just like a diamond. It's pretty." "Is that all? Just pretty?" "It's very pretty, I suppose. I refuse to love it." He was going to sell it too, just like the small castle he showed me yesterday. "You may appreciate it more if you drink from it. Have you ever tasted wine?" Mandy never let me. I reached for the goblet and trailed my balloon sleeve through the asparagus sauce. But the goblet was too far away. I had to stand. I stood on my skirt and lost my balance, pitching forward. To stop my fall, I brought my arms crashing down onto the table and knocked into Father's elbow. He dropped the goblet. It fell and broke neatly into two pieces, stem severed from the body. A red stain spread across the tablecloth, and Father's doublet was dotted with wine. So I think that's his shirt. I steeled myself for his rage, but he surprised me. "That was stupid of me," he said, dabbing at his clothes with a napkin. "When you came in, I saw you couldn't manage yourself." Nathan and a serving maid whisked away the tablecloth and broken glass. "I apologize," I said. "That won't put the crystal back together now, will it?" he snapped, and then collected himself. "Your apologies accepted. We both change our clothes and begin the meal." I returned in a quarter hour, in an everyday gown, not the fancy thing I had to wear in the first place, which caused all of the issues. "It's my fault," Father said, cutting into the sparrow grass spear. I've let you grown up a loaf. One more time. I've let you grow up an oaf. I'm not quite sure what that means, so I'm going to look it up after. I'm going to write that down. Oaf. O-A-F. I think it's probably very, clumsy, and that's what I'm assuming, but I'm going to look it up. I'm not an oaf. Mandy wasn't one to mince words, and she'd never call me that. Clumsy, babbling, gawky, but never, ever would she have dreamed to call me an oaf. Blundered, lumpkin, fumble-footed, but never an oaf. "But you're young enough to learn," Father went on. "Someday I may want to take you into a civilized company." "I don't like civilized company." "I may need civilized company to like you. I've made up my mind. It's off to finishing school for you." "I couldn't go. I wouldn't. You said I could have a governess. Wouldn't that be less expensive than sending me away?" A serving maid whisked away my uneaten sparrow grass and replaced it with scallions and tomato soup. "How kind of you to worry. A governess would be much more expensive. I haven't the time to interview governesses either." And remember that a governess is like a nanny or a tutor type of thing. "In 2 days you shall go to finishing school with Dame Olga's daughter. Do not ask me again." "I won't," I yelled at him. He continued as though I hadn't even spoken. I'll write a letter to the headmistress, which I shall entrust to you, along with a purse filled with enough KJs to stop her protest against any last-minute enrollment." That means that he's going to bribe her. He's going to give her a whole bunch of money so that she'll let him do that. I won't go, I yelled again, louder so he'd heard me. You shall do as I say, Eleanor. I won't go, I yelled again for a third time. Ella. He bit into his scallop and spoke while he chewed. Your father is not a good man. As the servants have already warned you, unless I miss my guess. I didn't deny it. He was not a good man. I happen to agree with him. They may have said I'm selfish, and I am. They may have said I'm impatient, and I am. They may have said I always have my way, and I do. I do too, I lied. He grinned at me admiringly. My daughter is the bravest wench in our whole land, he smiled. But then his smile vanished, and his mouth tightened to a hard, thin line. Like this, like he's thinking or he's mad. But she shall go to finishing school, and if I have to take her there myself, I will. And it will not be a pleasant trip if I have to lose time from my trading because of you. Do you understand me, Ella? Angry. Father reminded me of the carnival toy. A leather fist attached to a coiled spring used in puppet shows. When the spring was released, the first shot out at a harmless puppet. With father, it wasn't the first that frightened me. The fist that frightened me. It was the spring, because the spring determined the force of the blow. The anger in his eyes was so tightly coiled that I didn't know what would happen if the springs were tripped. I hated being frightened, but I was. I'll go to finishing school. I couldn't help adding, but I shall hate every second of it. His grin was back. You are free to loathe or hate it or love it as much as you like, as long as you attend. It was a taste of obedience without an order, and I didn't like it any better than Lucinda in It was a taste of obedience without an order, and I didn't like it any better than Lucinda induced kind. Okay, I'm not quite sure what that means. I left the dining room, and he didn't stop me. It was an early evening. In spite of the hour, I went up to my room and donned my nightgown. Then I moved my dolls, Flora and Rosamond, into bed and climbed in. They had stopped sleeping with me years before, but tonight I needed comfort. I needed the comfort of my dolls and remembering my childhood. I gathered them on my stomach and waited for sleep, but sleep was busy elsewhere and would not come. Tears started. I pushed Flora against my face. Sweetie, the door opened. It was Mandy, with a tonic in a box. I felt bad enough. No tonic, Mandy, I'm fine, truly. Oh, lovely. She put down the tonic on the box and held me, stroking my forehead. I don't want to go, I said into her shoulder. I know, honey, she said, and she held me for a long while until I almost slept. Then she shifted her weight. Tonic time. I'll skip tonight. No, you won't. Not tonight especially. I won't have you getting sick when you need your strength. A spoon came out of her apron. Take it, 3 spoons. I braced myself. Tonic tasted nutty and good, but it felt slimy, like swallowing a frog. Each spoonful oozed along my throat. I continued to gulp down to get rid of the sensation, but it made me feel better, a little bit better. Ready to talk anyway, I settled myself into Mandy's lap. Why did Mother marry him? This question had troubled me since I was old enough to think about it. Until she was his wife, Sir Peter was very sweet to Lady. I didn't trust him, but she wouldn't listen to me. Her family didn't approve because he was poor, which made Lady want him even more. She was that kind-hearted. Mandy's hand stopped his comforting journey up and down her forehead. Ella, my dear, try to keep him from learning about the spell on you. He must never know. Why? What would he do? He likes to have his way too much. He'd use you. And he would never look twice. He would never think twice. Mother ordered me not to tell anyone about the curse. But I wouldn't anyway. That's right. Her hand went back to work on my forehead. I closed my eyes, trying to relax. What would it be like, do you think? At school? Some of the lasses will be lovely, I assume. Sit up, sweet. Don't you want your present? I'd forgotten about the box. But there had been only one. Presents? One at a time, Mandy said, holding the box. For you, wherever you go for your whole life. Inside the box was a book of fairy tales. I have never seen such beautiful illustrations in my entire life. They were almost alive. I turned the pages, marveling at it. When you look at it, you can remember me and take comfort. I'll save it until I leave, so the stories will be new. Mandy chuckled. You won't finish it so fast. It grows on you. She fished in the pocket of her apron and fetched out tissue-papered packet from Lady, who remembers her mother. She called her Lady. She would have wanted you to have it. It was Mother's necklace. Threads of silver ended almost at my waist in a woven pattern of silver studded with tiny little pearls inside of it. You'll grow into it, sweet, and look as lovely wearing it as your mother did. I'll wear it always, I promised her. You'll be wise to keep it under your gown when you go out. It's very valuable. Gnomes made it. The bells tinkled downstairs. The father of yours is ringing, and I must go, even though I don't want to. I hugged Mandy, and I clung to her, not wanting her to leave. She disentangled herself from my arms. Let me go, love, planting a kiss on my cheek, and she left. I settled back into the bed, and this time, sleep finally claimed me. So, we have learned in this chapter that she has to go to finishing school or boarding school, and she does not want to. So, I'm quite curious what's about to happen. But that's going to be all for today. Have a wonderful day.